Hey everyone, this is David Brown with the migration update for April 13th, 2023 from the Braddock Bay Hawk Watch. I started the morning off at the Braddock Bay East Spit at sunrise, and it was a beautiful, warm, sunny morning. The biggest surprise of the day was when we saw this wild turkey swimming on Lake Ontario, and it was just swimming past us. It's like it came from the West Spit and was swimming east, and I think it came to shore somewhere along the East Spit, but it's my first time ever seeing a turkey swim. Here's a pair of wood ducks. And here's a closer look at the male wood duck. Here's a male red-winged blackbird. Here's a Bonaparte's gull. So a lot of the Bonaparte's gulls we're seeing now have the completely dark head. They're in breeding plumage. And notice the overall pattern of the wing. You have kind of a medium gray, but then on the outer edge of it you have a brighter white, and then you have black at the very tips of the feathers, giving it this black band. Here's a northern flicker of the yellow-shafted variety, which are the ones we have in the east. And there were over 100 flickers that migrated past the East Spit this morning. Flickers are a type of woodpecker. I moved over to the hawk platform around 8:30 to get set up for the hawk flight, and the skies remained clear all day, and the winds were moderate out of the west-southwest. But those blue skies made it a little bit difficult to spot the birds. It's a lot easier when there's a little bit of cloud cover or even a lot of cloud cover for spotting the birds. So day like today, the birds can get up pretty high and be difficult to spot. Here's 3 northern flickers on the grass in front of the hawk platform. And we can tell the outer ones are males because they have the black mustache on the face. And the middle one was a female, and the males were kind of doing a display trying to attract the attention of the female. Here's an adult broad-winged hawk, and we've seen broadwings for 3 days in a row now. Just starting to get them, and their numbers will increase dramatically over the next few weeks. Broad-winged hawks are small buteos, so similar to red tails and red shoulders, but broadwings are smaller. We see kind of a distinctive brown barring on the underside of the adults, along with that dark trailing edge that really gives the wings an outlined appearance. And on the tail, we see kind of a dark tail with a wide white band. Here we have a red-tailed hawk, so just a bigger and bulkier buteo, and we know it's an adult. We have the dark patagial bars and belly band that all red tails show, and the adults have a dark trailing edge to the wing and a red tail. Here's a juvenile sharp-shinned hawk. Sharp-shinned hawks are accipiters, so they have long tails, which we see here. And we see that the tail's fanned out, but if we pay attention, we see that all of the tail feathers, if you were to fold this tail, they're all about the same length. We see that this bird has a relatively small head as well, another good field mark for sharp-shinned hawk. And the wings look somewhat stocky rather than really long and lanky with kind of bulging second areas. So those are all good field marks for sharp-shinned hawk over Cooper's hawk. Here's another adult red-tailed hawk showing the same field marks with the dark patagial bars and the belly band, and it's an adult, so it has a dark trailing edge and a red tail. Here's an adult sharp-shinned hawk. We know it's an adult because of the orange barring underneath, and we know it's a sharp-shinned because of the relatively small head. It's got the wrists pushed forward there and a really squared off tail tip. Here's a male American kestrel. Remember that kestrels are falcons, so they have pointed wingtips. And this kestrel even landed in the boardwalk tree so we could check him out. Here we have a juvenile Cooper's hawk. So we can see the streaking underneath is just pretty much concentrated on the upper breast. No streaking at all down lower, and I'd say this one's fairly lightly streaked compared to some of them. If this bird were in a better posture, we would see that the head's relatively large, but just overall long, lanky wings, long tail. If the tail was folded, we might notice that the outer tail feathers are shorter. Can't really tell that from this photo. But this kind of streaking underneath is typical of Cooper's hawks compared to sharp-shinned hawks, which are usually a little more heavily marked and a little bit messier looking. So here's a juvenile sharp-shinned hawk that kind of shows what I'm talking about. The underside just looks a little bit heavier and messier rather than that clean teardrop streaking that we saw on that Cooper's hawk. Here we have an adult Cooper's hawk. We can see that big head, kind of a really fierce look to it. Sharpshins have kind of a smaller head, and the eyeball makes it look a little bit more cute because it's kind of a big eyeball and a small head. Compared to Cooper's hawks, it looks like kind of a smaller eyeball that gives the face a fierce appearance. And we can see the head has a more rounded tail tip because the outer tail feathers are a little bit shorter than the central ones. And the side view of the same bird shows us that orange barring underneath that's typical of adult Cooper's hawks. This photo is really out of focus, but I think it's a good example of what we're looking for broad-winged hawks. So this is what they call the paring knife shape, where the trailing edge of the wing is really straight. This one's got a little bit of a bend in it, but sometimes you'll see it completely straight. Kind of a medium length looking tail, but this is just that typical broad wing silhouette that we're looking for. Here's an immature bald eagle, and we had some bald eagles today, but really it seems like recently, even when we're getting good winds, we're not getting huge numbers of bald eagles compared to when we were getting good winds back in March. So it seems like it's been a little bit light on bald eagles after we had a really good start to the season. We had a record March for eagles, but it seems like it's slowed down a bit since then. Here's part of a flock of double-crested cormorants soaring around overhead. Here's a Caspian tern that came close to the boardwalk. Notice the black cap on the head and the large orangish red bill. And Caspian terns are the largest species of tern in the entire world. Here's an adult bald eagle. Here's another juvenile Cooper's hawk showing that teardrop streaking. And we can see that the outer tail feathers, which fold underneath, are shorter than the central ones. Here's another adult red-tailed hawk, and this is probably the northern subspecies, just going off of how heavy and dark and blobby this belly band is, and patagial bars. The head looks pretty dark, maybe a dark throat. So, wish I had gotten a better angle of this bird, but just a really nice, heavily marked red tail. Probably came from somewhere pretty far north. Here's another male American kestrel. You can notice the typical underside markings for a male. And at the end of the day, around 5:40 p.m., we had pretty good looks at this adult broad-winged hawk. So notice broadwings are just small buteos. They have very pointed wingtips compared to our other buteos. So we see 1, 2, 3, 4 feathers that make up the wingtip compared to 5 for red tails and red shoulders. So broadwings have that pointy wingtip. We also see that distinctive tail where it looks like a dark tail with a single wide white band from a distance. You can see that the outer tail feathers are actually a slightly different pattern on this bird, which is not too unusual. And the adults have this nice, bold, dark trailing edge to the wing that gives the wing a pretty bold outline when they're high overhead. Taking a look at the eBird checklists, from the East Spit in the morning, I had 59 species. And at Braddock Bay Park, I had 61 species. Taking a look at our HawkCount report for today, for our migrant raptor totals, we had 301 turkey vultures, 2 ospreys, 8 bald eagles, 12 northern harriers. For accipiters, we had 164 sharpies and 4 coops. For buteos, we had 14 red shoulders, 63 broadwings, and 79 red tails. And for falcons, we had 26 kestrels and 1 merlin for a total of 674 migrant raptors today. That brings our April total to 14,501 and our season total to 23,673. I had 1 new species for the season today, which was hermit thrush. Taking a look at the forecast for tomorrow, we're looking at a mix of sun and clouds with a high in the mid-60s. Winds are starting out kind of a light southerly wind overnight that will turn into a north-northeast lake breeze at 5 to 10 miles per hour. So we'll start out the platform and see when that lake breeze kicks in. Wouldn't expect a ton of migration just because of that northerly lake breeze, but there should be some activity, especially with the sunshine. For Saturday, we're looking at mostly cloudy with a slight chance of a rain shower, high in the low 60s, winds northeast at 5 to 10 miles per hour. So again, lake breeze, so wouldn't expect a ton of migration, but we'll get some birds. And for Sunday, partly cloudy, then scattered thunderstorms, high in the upper 60s, winds east-southeast at 10 to 15 miles per hour. So we'll keep an eye on Sunday, see what happens with those thunderstorms and rain and when the winds are actually shifting around. but as of right now, looks like only light to moderate migration. All right, well, we had a lot of visitors come out to the platform today, and I know a lot of the birds were fairly high and distant, but we did have some good looks, so I hope everyone wasn't too disappointed by the distant views. We had some Cooper's hawks come close and kestrels and sharpies, so hopefully everyone was satisfied, and I think everyone had a good time socializing out at the Braddock Bay Hawk Watch. Hope to see you soon. From Lyco Birds, this is David Brown. Thanks for watching.